Hi, everyone. I'm glad to be with you all again tonight. And we have a special guest and she goes by the name of Marizaan Bredenkamp. And I'm going to ask her to do introductions because I'm going to do a bad job at doing introductions of all the various roles that Marizaan is fulfilling right now. But I'm excited and I hope that you enjoy the next couple of minutes with us together. So, yeah, you go ahead, Marizaan. Tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're situated at the moment.
Hi everyone. I'm Marizaan Bredenkamp. Some people would know me as Connie. Those that know me personally. First of all, I want to say that my first declaration is the fact that I'm a child of God. So whatever I do is basically just giving honor to God and try and do things in a proper manner. And then I'm also involved with an NPO called Hope for Youth. I'm managing the NPO. So the NPO flows basically throughout the whole South Africa. We have a few hubs and a few leaders, which we call mentors, that spread out all over South Africa. And we work mostly with disadvantaged children and children on the farms specifically. And we focus on a lot on fatherlessness, so the kids that grows up without a father or the father's not involved. Me and my husband and the rest of the team also, it's just basically try to fulfill all that gap in terms of the fatherlessness. And then I also have my own business, or I recently started my own HR consultancy business, which is United 360 South Africa. And I think that's it.
And I think she forgot to say that she's also a radio host.
Oh,
Or is
yeah.
that a part time hobby
Yes.
of yours?
Yeah, like on a Monday and a Tuesday, I have a show on paarl FM. It's a local radio station in Paarl, in the Cape Winelands. And I'm hosting a food show on a Monday and then a talk show talking to businesses or just to interesting people on a Tuesday. So yeah, I always say that the reason why I'm doing that is just to get all the words out, because sometimes I talk a lot. So I talk everything on the radio. So when I get it home, then I
Yeah.
don't have to talk a lot at home. Then I can just be myself and
Love
just
it.
relax.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, so like you guys, I said, like there's too much to mention, and I was going to do a bad job of doing introduction. So thank you for telling us all those various hats that you are wearing. I know it must probably be very interesting juggling businesswoman, wife, mom, NPO organizer, director, I think, and radio host. Like, so it's very interesting, and just to also showcase that it's possible, guys. All these various hats, it is possible. So yeah, Marizan, I know that you yourself, so I mean, part of your work is on the NPO is working with disadvantaged youth, but your own experience growing up as well. Do you want to share a little bit about some of the memories, just one or two childhood memories that you have growing up and what that was like for you?
Yeah, I think first of all, I want to focus on maybe growing up parenting. So I grew up with my grandparents. So my mother was part of my life, but my father wasn't. So hence working with fatherlessness kids.
Ah,
That is why we focus a lot on that, because I know what is the gap in terms of growing up without a father.
mm,
Even though, I mean, I always had a relationship with my father, but just the gap that is there. I mean, nobody can fill that gap. So we've seen the importance of it. So at a young age, because I grew up in a pastoral home, basically. So my grandfather was a pastor, and I Sunday school teacher, Bible class teacher, youth leader, been
yeah.
thrown into all these leadership roles from a very, very young age. And I think we mustn't underestimate, our kids growing up, giving them responsibility since, when they are little. You can give your child responsibility because, it always teaches your child skills.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of parents sometimes feel my child can't do too many things at the same time, because then they won't focus on, say, academics, or they must focus more on their sport, and then they tend to let their child only do this one thing, where maybe the child is more diverse, wanting to
Yeah.
find out
Yeah.
for themselves what they are good at. So for
Mm,
me, it's a good memory, in terms of learning all these skills
mm,
from when I was very little, learning leadership skills, people skills, all of that skills I basically still use today.
sure.
Another memory that I'm thinking of, Melissa, is the fact that, I didn't grow up with money. So there was no silver spoon, no nothing. And I remember I was in grade 11 or grade 12, and the computers basically just, I'm not sure whether it just came out, but I never had access to a computer or anything like that. And our whole school, or the whole grade, went for computer classes, and there was no money for me to go, and I was crying, because I longed to basically advance myself, in
Mm,
terms of, um, having
mm,
that skill, that
yeah.
computer skill, and the
Mm,
money just wasn't there. So then I just promised myself, as soon as you get a job, you're going to do a computer course, and you're going to
yeah.
do certain things. And I
Sure.
think that is also, um, that type of background that drives you, and that also make me want to help other youth that is maybe in
Yeah.
similar situations. And I
Yeah.
think growing up without money is not the fact that your parents don't want to give you money, it's just that they never had to give.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, but even though money wasn't there, opportunity was always there.
Yeah.
And for me, just to see the gap and the opportunity and to go for that. And I think, in this, I just want to motivate the youth to say that there's always opportunity. And if we look today, if you go on the internet now, there is thousands of jobs, there is thousands of bursaries, there's things
Mm,
out there for you, there's
mm.
opportunities out there. You just have to basically just go the extra mile and take a step, and just, yeah, try to see, and apply, because it's definitely out there.
And I think I'm hopping now back onto the work that you are doing with your NPO, and I think a lot of times youth might be able to maybe they'll see the opportunity, but they won't know how to navigate, to almost
Yeah.
access it. And so that I would imagine is the role of NPOs like yours, is to just almost take youth by the hand and be like,
Yes.
these are opportunities perhaps, and these are how you would access, or just to give them that skill level of recognizing an opportunity, but not just looking at it, actually taking action,
Yeah.
like you were describing in your experience. I think that hand in hand, I know some people will just go and grab where others might look, you know,
Yeah.
hesitant a bit, or don't know how to navigate what to do. And I guess this is why we're having these types of conversations, is for those youth that also, they don't know where to. There is opportunity, like you say, the internet is wide and broad, but where do they even start to look for these things? Yeah, and so
Yeah.
we're hoping that these platforms are going to be helpful.
And I
Yeah.
think, just to add there, I think one of the reasons why, I started the NPO Hope for Youth, and basically collaborating with my HR consultancy business. So what we do is we have a database of, on Hope for Youth's, website, Facebook page, sorry, so they can send their CV and email it to Hope for Youth, and then I would then go to my network of clients and see how we can link, a young person with the client. So I mean,
Mm,
I, because I work with a lot of, businesses, I would know when they need some staff. And a lot of the times I would tell them, look, we do have a database on Hope for Youth, and there is youth that is looking for jobs. They've already been screened. So try to link, that opportunity to. So, I mean, for me, it's also, I mean, it's not an extra thing. It doesn't cost me money, anybody money to do that. And at the end of the day, the employer has a good person coming into their business.
Of course, sure. And thank you for that, for highlighting that resource. And if you don't mind, I would link your Hope for Youth organization in our description box and also in the link of the blog, as another resource for our youth, and they can get in touch with you. If they want to chat further with your organization. And so I also wanted to take time to zoom into your profession of that of HR, and just wanting to ask if where you studied and how long your program was for. Yeah.
I think I started to study cost and management accounting actually at CPUT because back in the day there was only about 3 or 4 professions, and that was you would either be a nurse, or accountant, a pastor, or a teacher. That is the only thing, like you would aspire to do that. So I mean, obviously then I fall into the accounting sector, and I studied accounting, and then just found out this is literally too boring for me because it's only, I mean, you sit at a desk the whole day and you just type and type. And then I started to do payroll. So I did not first, at first I didn't know that I was so passionate about HR. I literally had to go the back route to study HR. So then I used my own money and I went to Boland College. I did N4, N5, N6 there. I did in-service training. I got a national diploma from the Department of Higher Education. As soon as I got that, I went on to study through Mancosa, and then I did my BCom Human Resource Management degree through Mancosa. And I mean, I'm still studying, so it's for me it's an ongoing an ongoing process just to educate yourself and and to learn
And so can I go back to your Boland College? What was the program's name in the N4, N5, N6? Was it called HR?
It's I think it's called a National Certificate of Human Resources Management. So it's basically an 18-month program where you do you do 18 months theory, and then you do 18-month practical. So then at the end of the 3 years period, then you can apply to Department of Higher Education. You will gain 360 credits for that. And then you basically have your national diploma. So it's the same thing as studying theory at a CPUT or anywhere else. So it's actually a very good program because it forces you to go to a workplace and to get 18 months of practical experience, which a lot of the other programs don't offer. And I think for a start, for somebody that don't have a lot of money, they just want to start out by studying something, there is a lot of bursaries at FET colleges. If you cannot get into a higher education like a Stellenbosch or a CPUT or a University of Cape Town or anything like that, then I mean it's not a secondary type of I mean it's also something to your name. And I mean, and anybody can do
and that. I've heard that also. I think from our recent two interviewees ago, one of the ladies who have the fashion brand, and she shared that going to an FET college, the fact that she also said the fact that you are forced to have that practical experience in order to get a diploma, that
Exactly.
element, put her
Yeah.
into a good position when she did need to go and find a job, because she had the practical
Yeah.
experience and she knew how to do hands-on design work versus the one who perhaps came out of a theory-based course.
Of course,
And
yeah.
so yeah, not to say that the other ones are not good, but it's also to promote the FET colleges and say, don't always be sad when you don't get into a university. It's
University.
not the end of the
Exactly.
world, and I think these stories are evident of that. And
Yeah.
so you what would you advise, or any tips for those young people who are thinking about HR? They're not sure really, what it's about, but like, what's any tips that you have for that individual who's thinking, do I do HR? Is it something that I would enjoy? Yeah.
I would think I would definitely say that, I mean, if you want to do full on HR, which is HR management basically, because that will always be your ceiling, or HR director or HR executive, it is not a a fluffy type of job. I mean, you have to be very assertive. You have to be a neutral type of person. So if you are a very, I would say, a too chatty person with
Yeah.
everybody, then I mean, confidentiality is a very big thing. Then
Yeah.
rather maybe go into training and development, where you can basically just be yourself, talk to everybody, develop, because with HR management, you deal with a lot of conflict. You deal with management basically. So you have to sort out problems between, with grievances and things like that. You'll have to, um, it's a lot of administrative things that you must also do. So you must be able to do things on a higher type of level, do reporting and all of that. So if you don't like paperwork also, then maybe it's not for you.
Mm.
A typical type of person that would fit into an HR role is a typical person that likes to organize things and pull things together. So you have to work with a lot of teams. You have to work with the operations, the production, the finance people. You have to work with, sometimes there's research and development people that you have to work with, quality people that you have to work with. So you basically are this middle
Mm.
neutral party that has to keep the boat afloat.
Wow.
And so it's, yeah, I mean, the role of HR has changed significantly over the years. Where, I mean, a couple of years ago, HR was a lot of admin basically. So you did payroll and you did labor, you sat in hearings, and now they are expecting of HR basically to be the change makers in the organization. So it's,
Mm.
I mean, a lot of leadership skills. I mean, you have occupational development and things like that now. You
Mm.
have organizational development in
Mm.
HR now. You have um, different departments
Yeah.
and things happening in
And
HR. And I mean, it's
basically
not
the
clear cut anymore.
the culture of an organization also rests on what
Exactly.
on you, and how to facilitate, that sort of
Exactly.
whatever they want their organizational culture to be.
Exactly. And you must be the driver of that culture, basically, because everything starts and ends with you.
Uh,
And yeah,
yeah. And just to, maybe it's a silly question, but I'm sure some people who's listening might also want to know. So, is there currently still those clear divisions within HR? So, if you're just interested into the finance part of HR, where you're wanting to just do clock numbers or payroll things, work in that sort of
yeah.
aspect. So are there still those defined options, or would you say that that's not anymore the case and it's rolling out?
I think a bit of both. It depends on the organization structure. So it depends on how big or how small the organization is. So in a smaller organization, you would possibly have to do almost everything. So you would be like a type of a what they call HR generalist, or you would be a HR business partner.
Okay.
In a bigger organization, then you would then have to have a certain role. So you would either be in training, or you be in payroll, or recruitment, or labor. Then it's very specific. So, and I think with HR, I mean, you have a lot of options. You have literally, if you study HR, I mean, you can, like you said, I mean, there's all those departments that you can basically go into. And if you start in a small business and you learn all of that ropes, then you can go into a bigger organization and basically, either run, the show, or you can go into a specific field.
Yes.
And the courses is also so broad. I mean, it covers all of those things, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so just an example of why I was asking that question for those of the people who are listening, like when I worked in government obviously as an occupational therapist, as a clinician, and I would want to ask about a pay slip, I would need to speak to a particular HR consultant. If I want to ask about leave days, I needed to speak to a different one. If I needed to speak about by the time I left and joined UCT, I needed to speak to a different HR consultant, because that person was in charge of the leaving processes and all of that assigned to it. So,
I think that
and
is
what you were saying, yes, and what you were saying is that in smaller companies, one HR person might be employed there and have to do multiple roles. Okay. Otherwise, you would be more assigned to a specific role, perhaps in a bigger company.
Yeah. And I think it's like HR I would actually go and say a couple of months ago, or a couple of years ago, let's say months ago, HR was very administrative, and now HR must partner and be part of the strategy, because I mean, I would also say that the needs of the organization and the employees has changed so much. Where they wanted bigger salaries, they actually want more leave days because they want to spend more time with their family. They want to look at their health. So they want better medical aid instead of wanting a bigger pension fund, because they're not thinking of 65. They're thinking of, what am I going to do now? They want more money out to spend, more time with it, more flexibility, which put a lot of strain on HR. So HR has to look at the health of the organization. So, I mean, with a typical administrator type of HR, they would struggle in 2020 doing HR, because HR is changing. It's evolving. So I think we're getting very deep now, but and I think it's a conversation. Yeah, I mean, it's a conversation that we must have, because, I mean, if you see now during the lockdown, nobody can be clock watchers anymore. You can't start 5 o'clock and end 8 o'clock and end 5 o'clock, because it's lockdown. You're working from home. So your employer has to trust you now instead of clock watching, that type of thing. So it's literally changing and evolving.
No, for sure. Yeah, very interesting, and it's for those, my heart is just for those who are watching, and for them to see the human element behind what, something that we would just see on a paper or on a screen. We're doing our career searches, or, oh, what am I going to study? Let me look what HR is about. What the paper is going to say is not always going to give us this real life sort of experience behind it, and your examples that you are using. So I'm just there, and I'm wanting to say to those people who are interested in it, don't mind asking a question. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to ask Marizaan, or ask people who could possibly help us with those questions. Thanks. And then I think I asked you before we started if you would please share with us some general tips, general interview etiquette. And I think that element you might it might be useful for our youth who are invited to interviews. And I know that every job is very specific, and you would have to obviously do your research about that particular role that you're going to apply for. So I know, for example, with me, they're always going to, as an occupational therapist, give you case-based examples that you must unpack, and they want to see your clinical reasoning and all of that. So yes, those are very specific to a particular job or a role. But I thought I'd ask Marizaan, seeing that she's in HR, and if there is, just from her experience in helping our youth, general etiquette that we need to keep in mind always. So do you have any to us?
I think going to an interview, the first thing is, do research on the organization that you're going to. It's very important, even if you don't understand what the organization is about, you must at least know what the organization is doing, because it just shows that you are interested in the interview and you didn't, even if you have 20 interviews lined up, make sure that you do your research on the company that you're going to, first of all. Even if you just Google who's the CEO, what do they do, etc. And I think timing is everything. So be on time for the interview. Actually, be 10 minutes before the time. I would say take a CV with, even though you sent a CV already. Take your CV with. Just to show that you are prepared, even though they won't take your CV, but have it ready. Try to calm yourself down when you go for an interview. They would say you must wear black. I don't believe in in wearing totally black, because black looks professional. But just be yourself, because ultimately we're all human, and I think that even though the interviewers might come across as sometimes very cold, or they're just trying to stay neutral, so you just be yourself, because we always have conversation about the candidate after they've left and say, but I like this person's attitude. So don't leave yourself and your attitude at the door when you come in. Be yourself. Just have the conversation with the interviewer. Don't feel like it's such a big thing. Like, just as we're having a conversation, they're asking you questions. Just pretend. I always used to pretend it's a friend, just a friend of mine asking me questions, and I'm just answering. Where did you study? Do you answer? Be calm. And I think be neat. You don't have to dress fancy. Don't go and buy clothes, but try to not overdo it with dressing up, like leather jackets and chains and things like that. Dye your hair purple, things like that. I think a good handshake when you come in, also just to show a good handshake. I think now with COVID regulations, you won't be able to do it. But just show that you are confident, even if you are shivering inside. Just show that you're confident. And I think body language is also a big thing. So if you know that you're fiddling with your hands, and just put it under the table, just put your hands under the table and fiddle under the table and try to be nervous under the table, so that nobody can see. I think that is the most practical examples of just trying to ace an interview, and be as honest as possible, because we do checks. So we do background checks, we do reference checks and all of that. So don't try to lie in an interview to say that you have this and that experience, and when you actually start the job and then you don't have the experience, then it's a problem. Rather say that I am working in this and that environment, but I haven't been exposed to this and that, but I would like to be exposed. I'm a very quick learner, that type of thing. But don't let them see your vulnerability. Let them see that you are not the expert, but you're always trying to
Learn.
learn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That learning attitude and
exactly.
yes. Yeah. Thanks so much.
I don't know if that helps. If
Of
it's
course.
okay, okay.
You go to interviews, but for those people who are watching who possibly have never gone for an interview yet, and for those of us who are also watching who've been to a couple, one or two, you just never always lose the nerves, and so that will always be there. And so
Exactly.
yes, and I think your tips in its practical sense is also important because often I find in an interview when I do get nervous, my mouth gets dry, and I'm like, I have to almost make a conscious decision that there must always be water close by because like I know it's gonna happen. So you're almost preparing yourself for when those moments
E-
do happen. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think the world is probably gonna shift in a way that maybe more interviews will happen online.
Yeah,
And
and it's already happening, eh?
yes, and so like bringing your personality still through the screen, I think would be
Yeah, that's a challenge on its own. Yeah.
yes important. Almost reading the room is sometimes difficult on a screen, and yeah, checking that
Yeah.
out. But yeah, thank you so
And
much.
now,
Yes.
and I also want to say is maybe write down your strengths before the interview and focus on your strengths and
Mm.
not so much on your weaknesses. It's okay to bring a book to the interview. It's okay when you do your research to write down the CEO's name. I mean,
Wow.
when I started my business, it's actually very embarrassing, but when I started my business, then I went for my first meeting with a new client. And then I wrote the name of the CEO and the HR executive on my hand. And then the guy came to sit next to me and he asked me, Marizaan, what is that on your hand? And I mean, it happened this year. It happened in January. It's not even like it happened
Yes.
you know, it wasn't something that happened years ago. It happened in January 2020 that I did that. So I'm
Yeah.
still doing these little things to be prepared. And you know what? It actually just lit the room because it was such a laugh because they said, no, they can see that I am a person that is very meticulous. And then just the fact that I wrote their names on my hand because I didn't want to write it in a book just in case
And
they see. So,
yes.
and then they
Yes.
said, but just the fact that you wanted to remember our names shows
Mm.
us that you respect us enough, and that type of thing. So it's
Mm.
okay to take your book to the interview, to
Yeah.
sometimes, have your crypt note. It's not crypt notes. You can actually open your book.
Mm.
And if you forget something, just check whatever. I mean, I personally don't have a problem with it. It just shows me that the candidate is prepared.
Of course.
Um,
Yeah. No, that's helpful. I will definitely encourage even my own husband, Shame. He always has his book with all the little names, but he always leaves it in the car or
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
part
studying
of
for the test, then you
yeah,
go. This is like an interview, it's an open book test, so you
yeah.
can
Oh
take your
gosh.
book.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me and for giving us a little bit of your time. I really, really do appreciate it. And I know that
Thanks,
this will be
Diana.
so, so helpful for everyone watching and just like learning from your wisdom. And I think your energy about life is what I'm like drawn to. um,
Thank you for
just like
listening.
and just like this the fact that you're not scared and backing down for a challenge. Managing an MPO, managing your house, managing your business, it's a lot. But it's inspiring for us young women who are heading that way or who have the goal in mind. That is where we're heading. So thanks so much, and I really, really do appreciate it.
No
Do you
problem.
want to share any of your social media pages? And I will also link it in this video.
Yeah. So, Hope for Youth, obviously the NPO is just Hope for Youth. It's a NPO. It's on Facebook. And then the business, the HR consultancy business is Unite 360 South Africa. Unite 360 is on Facebook, and they also have a website. So you can check out the website. It's www.unite360.co.za. You can go there and check the services. As I said, I am here. I mean, people can email me specifically, young women wanting to enter the business world. I mean, I do a lot of sessions with young ladies, mentoring them on specific things on life and business. So it's for me, it's always a pleasure to assist, because somebody also assisted me in the
Yeah.
past. So I just want to give back also to the other ladies that still want to build the
Yeah.
future. I haven't made it in life yet. I have not arrived anything. So I'm just also a work in progress, and literally just trying to better myself and my family, but also so that we can also make an impact in other people's lives. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, if God helps us and blesses us, then we want to give back also some of
Yeah.
those blessings, so that people can also bless other people.
Yeah.
So
And I think
that's, yeah.
that's what I love about your heart, is the way that you think. You lateral thinking, and you're not just looking, up to, moving
Yeah.
yourself, but you extending those branches, and thinking about the one next door, or the lady who's still,
I
coming.
try to. You're making me shy, Mel.
So yeah, thanks for that, and I really appreciate it, and I wish you all of the best with all of the ventures that you have ahead and aligned for the rest of this year and the years to come.
Thank you, Mel. And then, yeah, and thank you also for career chats with Mel. So that's a hashtag now, hashtag career chats with Mel. Thank you also for your initiative. I think when I first saw that Facebook page, I thought, wow, this is amazing. This is definitely something that I've been thinking of a couple of years back, but never got a chance to do. And I just like, yes, God, you're
Yeah,
using Melissa now to
somebody's
fulfill
doing
this
it.
role in the society. So for me, that is awesome, because it's such a big need in the universities, in the colleges, on the schools. I mean, just to align certain things. And I think, yeah, I think this is not the end of it. I think me and you must have a chat again,
Yeah,
an offline chat
hopefully.
on maybe on certain things that we can do together.
Collaborate.